Welcome to Crafty Hints. I'm Chantel. I'm happy to have you here again today. We're going to get to some summer DIYs. Oh my goodness, it's going to snow here once again, so getting into a summer DIY sounds like fun to me. Let's get crafty. I started with some tissue paper, just regular wrapping tissue paper, and I'm going to trim this down and try and get my spot that isn't crinkled here. Okay, now I'm just going to tape it down to some regular printer paper. This will allow us to print right on this tissue paper. So just tape it down, making sure nothing's sticking up so it doesn't get caught in your inkjet printer. There it is. And so I printed that out. Make sure to put it on draft. You don't want very much there. I painted my round in plaster. And now I have some lemon tissue paper. Now I want to straighten that out. So I put some parchment paper down. And then I took my little mini iron and I put it on one of the lowest settings. Okay, now I'm just measuring where I want to put that tissue paper, and I'm going to rub along the edges so I know where to trim this. Now I just marked it on. I just have some butcher paper down, and so I marked it right on there so I know about how far down to put my Mod Podge. I did decide to use dishwasher safe Mod Podge in case I do put this out on the front door. If it does get just a little bit damp, it will be all right there. And I apologize, with all that white, my camera was trying to keep focusing. So I'm going to just put that down, and now I'm going to take the tissue paper. I just rough cut that out. Now I'll put this in place, and my Mod Podge was already dry, so I'm just setting this down. I'm going to put that parchment paper on. I'm going to put this little mini iron, you could use a household iron, on it. That will reactivate that Mod Podge, and this is one of the best ways to not get any wrinkles. If this was staying indoors, you wouldn't need to put any Mod Podge on top of it then. It will normally hold it on there just fine. So I'm doing the same thing that I did on the top and the bottom and now the center. You do have to be very careful when you put Mod Podge on top of the area that you printed. It can smudge if you get too much. And use very little amounts when you're putting it on the top. As you can see, it crinkled just a little bit, so I put that parchment paper on there while it was still slightly damp, and it did just smooth it right back out. There we go. It's just as easy as that, but then you can say whatever you want on your sign. If you don't have a Cricut or something like that, this is a great alternative. Now I just take a file around the edge and it gives me a nice smooth edge. I've got some leaves and some lemons there. Now I'm just going to make a quick bow. I'll make a loop here and then I'm going to hot glue it. I press that down just a little bit there while that glue is warm, and it just kind of grabs it. Now I'm going to make my tails, and you pinch it right there in the middle, and then you're going to want to cut from the outer edge towards the center. And there we go. Give us some nice tails. I'm going to just twist that over. That'll be the tails, and now I'll take another little piece, and I'll wrap it around the center of those to finish my bow. I guess while that cools, I'm going to go ahead and go back to my sign and glue down some leaves. Isn't that true though? Somehow everything's a little bit sweeter during the summertime. Everything's just nicer, isn't it? That sunshine just makes you feel great. So you're going to lay down as many leaves as you'd like. And once you get to that looking, how you'd like it to be, you'll finish up your bow, and then we'll just glue that right in the middle. So pretty inexpensive. The wood round you can get on Amazon or at the Dollar Tree. Oh, I'm going to make a loop on the back to just hang this up. Now, tell me, would you put the lemons on there? I played around with them, trying to find a good placement. I gotten those at Hobby Lobby last year. I just decided not to do it. So let me know down below if you would have added the lemons and how you would have placed them in the center off to each side. I had them on the sides, but that's just some skinny ribbon from Walmart. All right, this is part of a playlist. So sweet summertime, our host this time is Brenda from Rustic and Lace DIY, and Amanda and I are both the co-hosts. So there'll be a great playlist below with lots of other contributors. Okay, I took this silicone mold and I'm taking some painter's tape. You could use any tape, just making sure there isn't any lint in there. Then I'm going to use some 2-part resin. So you want to make sure I use a scale, just making sure I have these equal. And then you're going to want to mix them very slowly. Now, how is this part of summer? The flowers. What I did was I took this out of a flower arrangement, but of course you take it out of your garden if you have it, or pick some flowers. Now, I tried it 2 ways. I hung these upside down. And then I also did some in the microwave. To do it in the microwave, you're going to put it in between 2 paper towels, put a plate or a pie plate or something heavy on top, and do it in 30-second intervals. And I kind of just flip it over. And it took it about 1.5 to 2 minutes to fully get dry. And then I just left it in the napkin for a while. Okay, I'm just using a pipette and putting a little bit of that resin in there. When you stir it slowly so that you don't get bubbles in there. Now, this is the one that I hung upside down. And when you hang it upside down, it's a great technique, but it's a little bit fuller. When I put it in between the pie plate and in the napkin, it flattened it a little bit better. So for this, it was a better idea. I also, in this silicone mold, I don't know if you can quite see it, I put some jump rings right around that little circle that's up at the top so that it'll give it some extra stability when I put something through the center. All right, now I'm just putting this on top of the flower. You want a little bit underneath, and then you put the flower and then a little bit on top. That helps prevent some bubbles. Now you could use some rubbing alcohol and spray it on there, or use a lighter. That'll get rid of some of those little bubbles. Lots of fun there. I thought about making some matching earrings. Those are some earrings that I had gotten on Temu. And these molds I had also gotten on Temu. So I did some rectangles also. So these are the rectangles, and I just put a bowl over the top and let them cure for 24 hours. This is what the rectangles look like. And I'll show you the circles here in just a second. There we are, and they just pop right out. How pretty are those? So pretty. So great way to save some flowers, make some beautiful jewelry. Now, I wanted to dome these just a little bit. I didn't get the resin all the way to the tippy top. It wasn't perfectly level, but I also like a little bit of the dome effect on these. So I'm using some UV resin this time. So it isn't 2 parts. You just put it on there and then you put it under a UV light and it cures really quickly. Making sure I don't have any bubbles. We'll just make sure that's level. That's very important to always make sure your table is level when you're working with resin. Now I'm just taking that all the way to the edge so that it's a nice even finish. Super simple. All right, I did this for 2 minutes just to be safe. Now, I got these little pendant clasps on Temu as well. They're like under $1. So I just widen that out. And now I'm just going to put this on there and clasp it shut. So now that gives me a hanging pendant that I can make a pretty necklace. Oh, didn't quite get it on there, so I'll just try again until I get that on there. I might need to widen that and then pop it on there, but here is the necklace. Here's our last DIY. I got this sign at the Dollar Tree, and that sticker didn't want to come off, so you could use a blow dryer or my heat gun. This is a really inexpensive one that I got off Amazon. So if you go to my Amazon store, it is linked there. The other side was pretty, but I wasn't quite sure how I wanted to paint it with everything on there, so I decided I'm going to do it this way. So I'm using some Waverly chalk paint. This is the color Celery. I just gave it a once over. Now I just took a little bit of mineral chalk paint and I'm going to mix that in with the Celery just to make it a shade darker and do a little bit of shading around the edges. Just where some of the shadows might hit, like if the sun was shining, you'd have a little bit of shadowing here or there. And now I'm going to use a little bit of that mineral right where the water would pour out. I thought that might be metal, right? You could also go in with a silver paint, but I thought this gave it a little bit of farmhouse or country feel to it. So I think the shading is, what makes this come to life a little bit. I should have possibly gone in with a little bit more shading around the area the water pours out, but I did more shading around the bottom. And now I'm using some steel, and I'm gonna do a little bit of splattering of this paint. Now I get a little bit too much water at first, but I'm gonna show you how I fix that. See how I got big blobs there? It wasn't quite right. I'm just tapping this on my finger. So with those bigger blobs, I just took a cotton ball and that's going to absorb it really quickly without messing up my paint too much. See, you can't really even tell it was there. So I'll get a little bit more paint on there and just tap it on. This kind of is addicting. You just want to keep going. But do make sure you protect your other stuff around. My poor little Cricut Joy got a little bit on it. I had to wipe that down. But just mixing a little bit of Celery with that steel and giving just a little bit more shading around the bottom. So just to make it your own, I think this gives it just a little more character. Just makes it just a little bit more three-dimensional, right? All right, then we probably want a little bit of highlight. So I will take a little bit of white and mix that with the Celery also and do that up at the top. So kind of if the sun were shining down on it, you'd have a couple highlights there also. Guys, I am just making it up as I go, right? I'm not a professional artist. Well, I guess we're all a little bit of artists, right? If you're making art, you're an artist, but not a professional artist here at all. I just enjoy a little bit of painting. Now I'm going to have those flowers coming out of the top. So I just pulled some leaves off of some of my picks and I just trim them down. And I just want to kind of give this a little bit more dimension so that when I put my flowers in there, it doesn't just look like they're just kind of stuck there. So all of these flowers came from the Dollar Tree. I think the leaves might have come from some picks from Michael's, but the bigger, rounder leaves there. But I'm just going to put some leaves down, and then I'm going to just tuck some of these flowers in under there. So you could use what colors, go well with your decor. So our imagination is our only limit. I do hope if you've been enjoying this, you've given me a thumbs up, and I'd love to hear which one you like best. So let me know, or let me know which one you might create. I also do want to remind you to check out all of my friends in the playlist and go to the host channels and subscribe. Definitely won't be disappointed. I collab with them the first of every month. It's always fun. All right, this is coming together, I think. It looks like it's sitting in there, doesn't it? All right, a couple tumbling tower blocks on the box, or on the bottom, to give it a little bit of a kickstand. And just let those cool, and there it is. A little shelf sitter in my bathroom. Again, I want to thank you so very much for watching. I do hope you'll like, comment, and subscribe, or share it with a friend. But do take care of you. Take a little bit of time for yourself and to craft. Here's a couple other videos you might enjoy. Have a blessed day.